you this afternoon to provide some clarity on much of the conversation that's been happening around local cops, local crimes, 287G agreements, and of course housing contracts. Today we are really talking about local control and public safety. Prior to my remarks, I want to just kind of establish a timeline of events as they've kind of transpired since last March. So many of us have had conversations around the issue of the 287G agreement that we signed back in March of 2025. As you know, and as the community knows, because we talked about it so much, in March of 25, we signed a 287G agreement specific to the Warrant Service Officer Program, in which we trained 8 members of corrections to be able to serve process for those that were already confined in the Broome County Correctional Facility for having committed crimes against people in Broome County. In July, specifically on the 24th of this year, I received a letter from the Attorney General's office requesting very specific information about the status of that program. I did not respond to that letter because the Attorney General had no statutory authority to ask me those questions, nor did I have any obligation to do so. In August, specifically on the 19th of this month, I received, as many other sheriffs did across this great state, an investigative demand from the Attorney General, specifically from the new Office of Immigrant Trust. The request in that letter was they wanted us to provide an affirmative declaration on what we had done to terminate our existing 287G program. I responded to that letter the following day, the 20th of August, and we're going to provide you a copy of all of the documents and the things that I speak about so you have them in front of you. I responded to that inquiry from the 19th. I was very specific in that inquiry in which I was not terminating the memorandum of agreement personally as the signatory of that original agreement. However, by operation of law, the local cops, local crimes law that was passed in Albany, that agreement was being terminated. In that same letter, we reaffirmed our commitment to public safety. We reaffirmed our commitment to the people of Broome County, and we reaffirmed our commitment to filing suit against the governor and the Attorney General. Yesterday afternoon, an organization named FAIR filed a lawsuit on behalf of 15 sheriffs across this great state. And again, we're going to provide you copies of all of this stuff. I want to talk a little bit about what the lawsuit is about. For all sheriffs who are plaintiffs in this particular case. At the core of the lawsuit, I think what is getting lost so much in this conversation is I readily admit this to all of you, that immigration is kind of the mechanism that is causing much of this discussion. But for so many of us, the plaintiffs in this particular case, this lawsuit really is about the associated independence and the constitutional authority that is granted to the office of the sheriff. This lawsuit is about the aggressive and gross overreach by state government, specifically the defendants in this case, Governor Hochul and the Attorney General. What local crimes or local cops, local crimes does is it lets Albany cancel local contracts to include housing contracts. And the county of Broome stands to lose about $2.2 million now that we will not be housing Immigration and Customs detainees. And what local crimes, local cops does is it is really Albany dictating local decision making. And I think that is the underlying frustration, as I mentioned to many of you a couple of weeks ago. When you think about the office of the sheriff, and if you do your research, it's important for the public to remember that the authority and the privilege to serve as a sheriff, which I proudly do in this county, it's not derived from a boardroom. It's not derived from a review board in which you interview for. It's not derived from a meeting that you have with the county executive or a mayor. It's derived from the people at the ballot box. That's who gives me the authority to serve as Broome County's 58th sheriff. It's exactly why I said some 2 weeks ago to each of you that I don't answer to Kathy Hochul, I don't answer to Letitia James, I answer to the great people of Broome County who have afforded me an opportunity to serve in this role. And what local cops and local crimes is, and I think this is critically important for your viewership to recognize, is it is a continuation of the degradation of public safety in New York. The list is very long, and I'm going to go through it because it's important to remind your viewers. Look at the last 8 years, what has happened to the public safety system in the state of New York. You have no bail. You have Raise the Age. You have Discovery. Less is More. Clean Slate. You have HALT. You have prison closures, the firing of docks employees. Policy after policy after policy that continues to put criminals before law-abiding New Yorkers. The political class in Albany continues to make the work of law enforcement more and more difficult every single day. They're literally handcuffing members of law enforcement when, in fact, we should be handcuffing criminals. Our deputies the other night, in one night, they arrested 9 people who had failure to appear warrants in one shift. That should send a very clear message that the system is broke and that there is a revolving door, and our members are dealing with the very same people week after week after week because the system is broke. Ask Mayor Mike Spano about Raise the Age in the city of Yonkers. Don't take my word for it. This is not a Republican issue versus a Democrat issue. Ask Mayor Mike Spano, who is dealing with 15 and 16-year-olds who are repetitively committing gun crimes in which people are being killed in the city of Yonkers. He just held a press conference 10 days ago in which he voiced his frustration at failed policy like Raise the Age. Or ask corrections officers who are being assaulted on a daily basis because of the broken HALT system. Sound like a nightmare? Sound like a bad dream? It's not. It's not a bad dream. It is reality, and it is public safety and Kathy Hochul and Tish James, New York, who care far more about appeasing the far-left members of the DSA and Citizen Action than to do protecting law-abiding New Yorkers. So where do we go from here? And how does the Office of the Sheriff respond? I want to be very clear as I speak from this podium today, specifically to the people of Broome County. As your sheriff, I am telling you the following things. The undersheriff and I, as we move forward from this day, we will continue on our path of unapologetically prioritizing public safety. We will continue to invest, as we have for the last 3.5 years, in responsible reentry programming, because that matters to the safety of this community. We're going to continue to foster strong working relationships with all of our federal law enforcement partners. We're going to continue to support unabashedly the men and women who every single day put this uniform on and go out in harm's way on behalf of the people that they represent, even though they are faced every single day with terrible policies that put their lives in danger. And most importantly, and that started yesterday, we're going to fight this overreach as strongly as we possibly can. And here's what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to bow to political activists. I am not going to bow to political pressure. I'm going to make decisions. I'm not going to make decisions that jeopardize the safety and well-being of the people who live in Broome County, the people who chose to live, work, and raise their families here. I'm not going to make decisions that jeopardize their well-being. And we are going to, as we swore an oath when we took this office, we're going to protect and defend the Constitution, both the United States Constitution and the New York State Constitution. I promised the people of Broome County 3.5 years ago when I was sworn in that I would make every decision with their best interests in mind and in putting the community first, and I intend to do that as we move forward. With that, I'll take your question specifically on this issue.
You mentioned the broken HALT system. Could you elaborate on that?
Well, look, you have people who are confined to correctional facilities who are disciplinary problems, who assault staff, who assault one another, and that we're required to put them in the same housing unit and keep them out together for 7 hours a day. There is no accountability in the broken HALT system, and people are being assaulted. And by people, I mean our staff people in other correctional facilities, people in the state correctional facility. And again, don't take my word for it. Spend a little bit of time with anybody who works in that environment, and they will voice their frustrations as they have since its implementation. Again, these are broken policies that continue to negatively affect communities and negatively affect the people who are working so hard to do the job.
As a result, or as it kind of regards the lawsuit, if it does go through, what do you plan to do as it pertains to the 2070 agreement?
It's an interesting concept, right? So, there's so much conversation around the agreement, right? What is an agreement? It's a piece of paper, right? I mean, I'm still going to make decisions that I think are in the best interest of the community. Whether or not there's a piece of paper that says I have a memorandum of understanding to train 8 corrections officers, I said it a couple of weeks ago. If there's somebody in this facility who has committed a crime against a Broome County resident, who happens also to be an illegal migrant, who is wanted by the federal government, is the expectation that I'm going to release that person back into the street to reoffend against a Broome County resident? It's not happening. But whether or not we have a 287G agreement, we're going to continue to do the work that the people elected us to do. But again, let's not lose sight of the fact that this is not just this issue. This lawsuit is just not about a 287G agreement. Again, at its very core, put immigration aside for just a moment. At its very core, it is about the degradation of the independence of this office. Right? The New York State Constitution speaks specifically to the establishment of the office of sheriff and who dictates who can or can't serve as their county's sheriff. And I'm telling you, and I know you know this, Iggy, it's not some bureaucrat in Albany. It is the good people of their respective communities. And at the very core of this lawsuit, that I think is the underlying and overarching issue that we are fighting. Because really this is death by 1,000 cuts. If you look at it, if you look at the last 8 years, I'm not saying for a moment that any of those issues that I talked about, and I've said this many times, we should always seek to reform systems. I don't care if you're a doctor, you're a cop, you're a garbage man, whatever it may be. You should always seek to do better, right? Did we need to make improvements to the bail system? Well, of course we did, right? But did we need to destroy the entire program so cops are dealing with the same people week after week after week and there is no accountability? No, I think we probably went a little bit too far. Halt. Of course you don't want inhumane treatment of people. We don't do that here. We don't expect it to happen any other place. But these policies have gone too far. And what the lawsuit truly is about is ensuring that local decisions are made by local people, like sheriffs, elected by the people, and not some bureaucrat, some political class person sitting in an ivory tower in Albany. That's what this is about.
You mentioned that there was an organization working with all the sheriff's departments. Can you speak more about what that organization is and what they typically do?
Yeah, so FAIR is the Federation for American Immigration Reform. And what FAIR is doing for the 15 plaintiffs in this particular case is they've taken the case pro bono. And we each have signed on as plaintiffs in this case in our official capacity as duly elected sheriffs of our respective communities. And, again, the 15 of us, and I suspect as this litigation moves forward, you'll find that more sheriffs are joining the effort. And again, this is about the preservation of the office. It's about the preservation of, not allowing state government to just void contracts, existing contracts. And again, I just don't want to lose sight of the fact that, it's not only about 287G agreements. Yes, of course, that is a component. It's about housing contracts, and it's also about the establishment of the Office of Office of Immigration Trust. Right. So you have what you now have with local cops, local crimes, and don't believe the political hype that you hear from the second floor in Albany. What you now have is Albany dictating to duly elected sheriffs how to make public safety decisions, And if you don't do what they say, now the Office of Immigrant Trust has broad authority to investigate you. And it's basically a police department for sheriffs is what they created. And I'm not saying for a moment that any sheriff, and I don't think any sheriff would tell you this, we shouldn't be held accountable. We absolutely should. I expect every day my staff to hold me accountable. I expect the people to hold me accountable that elected me. So it's not a matter of not wanting to be held accountable, but this OIT is so broadly drawn and gives such broad authority to the Attorney General, who already hates cops. Hates cops. That's very clear by her actions and her words. So of course, it's a cause of concern for all of us, as it should be.
Has the Broome County Sheriff's Office filed suit against the state government before for similar reasons, like overreaching in your wood?
Well, I'm not aware of. It certainly hasn't happened in our tenure. This is the first time that we have taken affirmative action like this with other colleagues and of course other plaintiffs in this particular case. And again, as I said a couple of weeks ago, and I feel even more strong about it today, now that the lawsuit is filed, and again, we'll give you a copy of it. I think there are very strong and compelling arguments that the attorneys are making on our behalf.
And are there any long-term implications you see from this lawsuit going forward?
Well, can you clarify?
Pardon me. I didn't think that through. Pardon me. My bad.
That's okay. I mean, implications in am I afraid of retaliatory action by the governor and the attorney general?
Yes.
I think law enforcement today, and I think you saw this. So think about this for a moment. The law, local cops, local crimes went into effect August 25th. On the 19th of August, I was served a demand letter by the attorney general. You talk about overreach. The law wasn't even in effect. The law didn't go into effect until 6 days following the letter. To respond about what I had or hadn't done with respect to the agreement. So, look, I think anytime you are involved in a contentious issue, there's a concern that maybe there may be some retaliatory action taken by state government. But at the end of the day, for me, this is a matter of principle and doing what is right on behalf of the people that I so proudly represent. And I'm not going to lay down and be quiet about this, because the people who elected me, they don't expect me to do that, number one. But number two, again, and I go back to something that I said a few moments ago, at the core of this lawsuit, at the core of this issue, it is about constitutional authority and independence that comes along with this office. If the people of Broome County are dissatisfied with the way I am administering this office, my expectation is on November 3rd, they won't allow me to serve anymore. They'll go in a different direction. But that's up to the people. That's not up to Kathy Hochul, and it's not up to Tish James. Anybody else? All right, I appreciate you guys covering it. Thank you.